Nice.
Oh,
Alrighty, guys. Well, we're gonna go ahead and jump on into another episode of the Strong as Hale Bad Bitch Collective podcast, and I have the most specialist, my favoritist of guests, my bestest friend, and the newest assistant coach of Strong as Hale, Annabelle.
oh,
Please tell us about you.
hello, hello. I'm so honored to be here with my bestest friend ever. I feel like this is a long time coming, but we're here, we
Yeah,
made it. That's what
that's all
matters.
that matters.
Yeah, so I'll just give you guys a very brief recap of me, where I'm from, how I got here, how Haley and I ended up being besties. But um, I am born and raised Atlanta, Georgia. Moved to Columbia, South Carolina to go to school. That is where Haley and I's friendship blossomed. And then after I graduated, I moved to Chattanooga, Tennessee. So that is currently where I'm at. But giving you guys a bit of a fitness and nutrition background, because that's kind of why we're all here. Um, I started CrossFit in April or May of 2018. I was a senior in high school and I was about to graduate. And I had been doing little insanity workouts in my living room, being like, oh my gosh, this is gonna get me so fit. I'm gonna get jacked and have a six pack like all these people in these videos. And like, I guarantee you, they did not get like that by doing insanity or P90X. But you know what? I was living in my world. But how I even came across CrossFit in the first place was I found the documentaries on Netflix and I watched all of them in like 3 nights, 3 nights in a row. So I think it was the 2015, 2016, and 2017 games documentaries that were on Netflix. So I binge watch all of those. And me, I was just like, oh my gosh, that looks easy and super fun. I definitely want to do that. So like literally the next day I had called up my closest CrossFit gym, set up my consultation and got rolling. Right, I was like hot out the gate, just so excited to be there. um Kept doing CrossFit throughout the summer, and while I was there I kind of got this idea of like, oh, this might be kind of fun to do as a job, but we'll see. Not gonna make anything happen too soon. I moved to Columbia for school. I originally wanted to go for exercise science because I was just like, yes, I want to be a personal trainer. I need to go get an exercise science degree. Not how that works, by the way, but you know, made it through my first semester of exercise science, absolutely hated it. I'm not a science minded person, but you live and you learn. I learned a lot. So switched my second semester of college to public health instead, which I found was a lot of the same exercise science stuff without a lot of the science. So perfect there. Um, and yeah, started going to Carolina CrossFit. That's where Haley and I met, where our friendship began. She walked up to me one day and she said, "Do you want to do a competition with me?" And here I was, like not even a year into CrossFit yet, and I was just like, "What do you mean you want me to do a competition?" But I was super intimidated. She was like tatted up already, like doing muscle ups in the back corner of the gym, and here I was like not that at all. I was just like, I still just like to walk and I can't run very well without wheezing, but that's beside the point. But I think that it was a combination of being in school in a fitness related field and being in a way bigger gym than I was used to, and like meeting people like Haley and my other coaches that I had, where I was like, oh, I could definitely see myself making this into a career. So I definitely credit you, Haley, to a lot of my inspiration of, oh, I'll go get my level one, just see what happens. And then I got my nutrition coaching certification as well, sponsored by Haley. She was just like, this would be such a fun thing if you did it. And I was like, I agree. Um, so yeah, I began coaching CrossFit my sophomore year of college. Um, Kind of hung out. It was all during, I don't know if it would count it because it was like began like right before COVID. So then everything kind of shut down. So there was a little bit of a hiatus in there, but that's beside the point. So yeah, I've been coaching through my last couple of years of college. When I graduated, moved to Tennessee, started coaching at a gym here as well, and really started ramping up my nutrition coaching too in the past year and a half now, I believe. So been running the nutrition program here as well. And yeah, I think that's a big my story in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Throw in there as well that we like to have a lot of fun together. We're like fitness during the day and then crazy girls at night.
It's
We
like
like
a
to
mullet.
dance. We like to, yeah. Oh,
We're
I left out
basically
the
a
part where
mullet.
we literally, yeah. Business in the front, party in the back. But where we
Exactly.
lived together, best 6 months of my life,
Oh my
where
gosh.
me, Haley, and Haley's husband Bobby all shared a house. My last semester of college, like literally, those were our peak days. I
Those were
believe
the
it. It
best
was
six
just
months
so
of my
much
life.
fun. I know. So yeah, I think that recaps myself pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah. I still remember to this day going up to you and being like, well, I was talking to Bobby and I was like, I really want to do Beach Town Throwdown, which was the competition I
Mm-hmm.
had you do with me. Obviously, you know, everyone else does know. Um, but I was like, I don't want to do RX. Like, I cannot. Like, I'm not there yet. Because that was like my very first competition, other than I
I
did
think it
a,
was, yeah.
yeah, I did a partner one with Soda City, but it was for like a charity thing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so in that was scaled for sure. I remember that. Um, but I remember going up to you and talking to Bobby, and I was like, I don't want to do it RX. So
Yeah.
all the girls in
Let
the
me
back
find
were
some
like,
scaled girls.
what?
That's amazing. No, you're the person that we would always get frustrated with, being like, why is that girl in scaled? She should be in RX. But we evened you out. I think we broke even pretty
I
well.
don't know because when we got there, I mean, the only thing that I was really RX at was gymnastics, and even then, like
That's
it
true.
wasn't good. Like it really wasn't good. Like I look back now at the pictures of that chest to bar workout, and I looked like a scorpion bent in the air trying to
Yeah.
touch my chest, and Olivia ripped her hand on the very first hose to
I
bar. Do you remember
remember
that?
that. Oh my gosh. Well, you got the work done. It definitely wasn't efficient
It wasn't
or like
pretty.
super pretty, but you did get it done.
And then I
If
found
anyone
that
knows how to
video.
grunt work, it's you.
That's true. Something about when you put me in like like a competitive environment, I can become the world's greatest at anything, or
Yeah,
like at the world's greatest at like figuring it out for
right.
sure.
Didn't we place
It-
second that year? I think we did.
yeah, we did really
Yeah,
good.
we
I
really
think we
did. I
got
was proud of us.
third. You and Eva and Seely got second.
I thought it was the other way around.
Oh, maybe it was. I have no idea. I have
Yeah,
no idea.
either way,
I
history
have.
was made.
It was made. It really was.
Us in our
And
little
that's
sprinkle
so.
shorts.
Oh my gosh, yes. And the mermaid shorts.
Yes, yes.
I threw those away so long ago because they didn't even fit because I got
Yeah, I
mediums
know.
and I was like 120 pounds.
See, I had to get rid of them for the opposite reason is that I bought an extra small and I'm a very medium person.
Yeah, no, maybe
But
now they
yeah,
would have fit, but I like remember I had to like sew, like I pinched the sides
you
and I had to sew them
did.
together so that they wouldn't
Yeah,
fall off all
yeah.
weekend.
We're gonna tell this story again if either one of us ever becomes like a sponsored athlete for something. We're gonna be like, look at our humble beginnings.
I literally found
Oh.
that picture of me with my shorts and you can see where they're bunched up and like ratchet
Mm-hmm.
sewn together. And I'm like, oh,
Yeah, I remember
Haley.
that. Oh, that
Oh,
was fun.
Haley.
What a
Yes.
time.
It was a great time for sure, for sure. When in the world did I even like I remember when I finished the WAG certification, their like deal at the end of completing it was that you could offer it to someone for free. I don't even
Mhm.
remember when that was. When was that?
I got my certificate in June of 2021.
Oh
And
my
I know that
gosh.
you gave it to me, I'm pretty sure, in like January. And I didn't have a chance to actually finish it until I was done with school. And I moved
Yeah.
to Tennessee for the summer. So I was literally like here, just kind of like riding the highs of life, like unemployed, just living in Tennessee for fun. And I was like, oh, well,
Yeah.
I guess I'll just finish this. And like once I actually sat down and got it done, I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks and I had like completed it.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah,
liked that cert a lot. I've done the WAG
me
and I've done
too.
the precision and I did not like the precision at all. Like I
Yeah.
just did not enjoy it.
I would be interested in looking into that one just to see like a different viewpoint of things. But the WAG one was awesome in the way of like it presented you with example clients and you would have to like write out emails or write out check-ins as if they were a real person, and
Hmm.
then you would get feedback on that, like, maybe you shouldn't say this to your client, or you forgot to include this, like just stuff like that. It was very, very practical. Like I felt like after that certification, when I like actually got my first client, I knew what I was doing because I had practiced so many times already. It wasn't kind of like
Yeah.
you were just thrown to the wolves and like having to figure things out completely by trial and error.
Yeah. And they were graded by
Yeah.
like a real person, which was awesome. Like you
Yeah.
got a real feedback from a real person on all of
Mhm.
those. I do remember that. That was awesome. I think I
Mhm.
finished that thing in like a week because I was working at Vertex at the time and like it was
Really?
during COVID. Yeah. So they had maybe like two patients a day.
Oh my gosh.
So it was
That's
just so
awesome.
much
There you go.
downtime. And I was just
Yeah.
like, okay, well, I'm gonna work for 8 hours on this per day. We'll just call it a day.
Yeah. Good
Amazing.
times. Good times.
I know. So all of that being said, AB is my bestie for the resty. She has been. She wiggled her way into my heart. This is the second. It's the
we were
second.
we were curious about it for a second. We're just like, is this gonna work? I'm not sure.
Well, we're
Here we
just
are.
so different, which
Mhm.
is a good and a bad thing. Like
It is.
you bring life to my life because like if I had it my way, I would like just be an introvert and like never do
Right,
anything
and you
all the
bring a
time.
lot of structure and discipline to my life for sure. You're just like, "We have to get this one thing done," and I'm like, "Okay, I will get it done."
Okay, okay, let's do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so we're very, very different in that aspect, which is awesome. Because like in college, I was compete, eat, sleep. Like that's it. And you
Yeah.
like were more of I'm going to enjoy my time in college
Right,
and have a good
right.
time.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I never had a fake and I was scared to go out. I never drank until I was
Oh
21.
my gosh. You know
Like I was
what's funny
scared.
is that, like, I'm so glad that I did get that out in my college years, so now, like, I was just talking to my boyfriend Carson about it, and it's St. Patrick's Day tomorrow, and I was just like, "I do not want to go out. Like, can we sit and, like, watch a movie and go to bed by 8, please?" Like, that's all I want now. So, I feel like, um, I've played things well,
Yeah,
that I don't
yeah.
feel like I'm missing out on anything, I didn't, like, keep myself in. Definitely did not do that in college, but now I'm like, "Okay, I've seen what there is to see, I'm good," you know?
Yeah. Whereas on the other
So
side, I'm kind of like, dang, I I wouldn't say I regret doing what I did in college just because I did accomplish a lot and I'm like really proud of like the things that I did accomplish. But I
Uh-huh.
do think that if I had lightened up a little bit, I could have avoided a lot of the problems I caused
Right.
for myself.
Just like in a stress way, just kind of
Yes.
like, okay, it's fine. Like, even if we wanted to like go on a weekend trip or something that like, oh, we're not gonna sleep a full 8 hours tonight. And like every once in a while, that is fine,
Yes.
just like
Yes.
stuff like that. But I feel like, I don't know, in our 6 months of living together, we branched out a little bit
Oh my gosh, that's
just in
seriously
like
the
the
most fun I've
social
ever had.
aspect of things. Yeah, for sure.
Literally. Like that is the
Mm-hmm.
most fun I've ever had. For sure. Okay,
I
well
miss
then
it.
I know me too. I do too. So let's talk kind of about your nutrition journey then. So
Mm-hmm.
you started doing CrossFit, you started working out and all that stuff. Tell me, when did you start like finally decide to kind of start dialing in nutrition and what did that do for you for your fitness journey?
Yeah, so I feel like my nutrition journey started way before CrossFit. So I mentioned that I was doing just like home workouts at my house. in my brain, I was just like, I want to lean out. Keep in mind, at that point, I was probably like 30% body fat and like zero muscle mass. Like, even the stuff I was doing at home, like the heaviest dumbbells I ever used were like 10 pounds. And I'm just like, yes, this will make me so strong. Um, and with those programs, I remember I got a nutrition guide that came with it. And it was kind of like, it was portion control in a way of like, here are your containers you need to measure your food out in. And that's like what you're allowed to eat. Like, you have 3 blocks of this and two. It was like zone, but
Yeah.
not that brand. It was like whatever that big company's brand was. I don't know. But um figured it out, and I had a My Fitness Pal, and I was like, okay, here's my Fitness Pal calculated calories, what they gave me, but I want to lose more body fat, so I'm going to turn it down even lower than that. So I
Yep.
remember in my Fitness Pal, I was at like 12 or 1300 calories a day. um I went from 0 to 100 in a way of like, I didn't know anything about nutrition, to I'm only allowed to eat salads and chicken, and if it's gluten free, it's healthy for you, so I'll eat as much of that as I want. Like, I had no idea what I was doing, pretty much. But also, organic means you can eat as much of it
Organic
as you
is
want.
so good.
Yes, exactly. So I was doing that for, I think, 6 to 8 months. Like, obviously, with calories being that low and me not like really knowing what I was doing, I doubt that I was actually that low, because it was still just like, oh, I'll do this Monday through Thursday, and then Friday, Saturday,
Yeah.
Sunday, like everything goes out the window. Um, but then I started CrossFit, stopped tracking things altogether, I think. And then in my brain, I was just like, oh, well, now I'm working out way harder. I can eat whatever I want.
Yeah.
And that turned into, I can eat whatever I want in a junk food sort of way. So it
Yeah.
was like everything processed, like I was eating out a ton. Um, just like not, oh, I remember that every single morning, I knew that eggs were good for you, right? Every morning while I was doing CrossFit in high school, I would have like 4 eggs and then put a ton of cheese in there. I was like, this is so good for me, my cheesy eggs.
Yes. Health.
Which, everything in moderation, don't get me wrong, but I was just like, this is gonna make me so strong.
Yes, it is.
So just stuff like that, of me being like, okay, I've heard that these foods are good for me. I've heard that gluten's bad for me, so I'm just gonna cut it out for no reason, even though I have no
Yeah.
allergies.
Yeah.
um, and that was kind of it. Um, so I moved to college, was on a meal plan. I
Yep.
got unlimited Ben and Jerry's, all you can eat dining hall
Midnight swipe.
food. Midnight swipe, exactly. So free ice cream, like, whenever I wanted it.
Yep.
So I remember, I think I did gain weight, but not a ton of it. I went from like being a string bean to like a normal sized female. Still like little, I was growing muscle mass at that point, because had
Mhm.
been doing CrossFit consistently for like 4 or 5 months at that point, but it was still like not super notable. But still just thinking like, oh, I work out so I can eat whatever I want. It
Yeah.
wasn't until we started talking about it that you had just gotten your nutrition certification. You were super interested in it, and you had calculated my macros for me. Um, and keep in mind, this was still my freshman year of college. So even though I had a My Fitness Pal and I could track things, like, I also never cooked for myself because I lived in a dorm, so
Hmm.
there wasn't really a ton that I could do there. Um, so it became a lot easier sophomore year of college when I lived in a house. I had the macros that you had given me. I was able to weigh my food. I was able to track my food. And I just got a lot more consistent of, oh, maybe I should be eating protein at every meal. Oh, maybe I should eat vegetables a couple times a day. And I was just kind of going by trial and error still, of kind of like, I enjoy these foods and I could eat these foods every single day, to make it something that was sustainable. And I didn't get to the weekend and I was just like, oh, I need to eat absolutely everything in my sight because I feel so restricted. Like, I never felt
Yeah.
like that. So just kind of ate at maintenance level, I guess, until we did our We
Heading
called
to the
it summer
shreddy.
shreddy at the time. I don't know if that's still an allowed term to say, but pretty much we just wanted to lean out, just like to see what would happen. And that was the first time I had like super strictly and consistently weighed and tracked things. So I remember my like deficit calories, I was at 1800 the whole time,
Yeah.
which sounds really high to some people, but like I saw a very consistent like drop in body fat
You
over
did
like
really good.
yeah. And that's like all those pictures that you show too of like,
Yeah.
oh, like it is possible to do that. And I was at 1800, like 1750 at the bare minimum. Like that was
Yeah.
my minimum that I hit every single day. And that just came from being consistent. I was hitting my protein goal or exceeding it. I was walking at least 10K steps a day and I was working out my normal like 6 days a week like we did.
Mhm.
Um and like the weekends, I just didn't let myself go crazy. Like if I wanted to go out for drinks or I wanted to go out for a meal, like I would just fit that into the macros that I had. So it
Yeah.
wasn't like one day where I was completely blowing everything out of the water. Like I was just very consistent and I'm very proud of myself for that.
No, yeah,
Because
you were
I
like the
stuck with
only
it.
one who crushed it.
I did because like I was seeing progress too, and that was super motivating. And this kind of plays into our next topic as well. We were going to talk about my journey with like my hormones and like all of those
Yeah.
imbalances and stuff that had been going on there. But my sophomore year of college, like no fault of my own, I had been put on birth control for my skin. Like I always had really bad skin problems. So my dermatologist was just like, oh, put you on some birth control. That should solve everything. Was eating and exercising the exact same way as I already had, but I gained 20 pounds out of nowhere just because
Yeah.
my hormones were like messed up and I was like crying every day. I was like raging with anger 1 second and then like perfectly fine the next. Like it was awful. And I was on that for 6 months and like I'm 5'2" and I like if I don't really pay attention to it, I sit around like 130 without having to like
Hmm.
be super on top of anything. That within a month or two, I think it was 2 months, I hit 145 doing
Yeah.
absolutely nothing different. Like I was still weighing and tracking all of my food. And I was like, this does not make any sort of sense. So I was only on birth control for about 6 months before I called it quits. I was just like, I feel awful. Like, my numbers in the gym were going down. My skin
Yeah.
wasn't getting any better, which was the only reason I was on it in the first place. And so I finally decided, like, okay, I'm going to stop doing this. So that was when we started like dialing our nutrition back in as well. And so I think it was a combination of the two of like my hormones super out of whack to
Hmm.
trying to get my hormones back on track, actually paying attention to what I was eating enough of the right things that I was finally able to drop some of that body fat and also get stronger at the same time.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that was kind of a mixture of all of the things.
Yeah. I wish I kind of, I mean, obviously you don't know what you don't know.
Mhm.
Um, and in the nutrition world for CrossFit specifically, I feel like we do a really, really good job of focusing on macronutrients like protein,
Mhm.
carbs, fat. And when you give someone a macro profile, be like, great, you can reach that, no problem, whatever. When we
Mhm.
did Daddy to the Shreddy, that should have been red flag number one to me that I just didn't pay attention to because it was kind of like what you were saying. I was in a caloric deficit
Mhm.
for what I thought was the first time since getting really competitive at CrossFit. Um, and with the amount of leanness that I was prior to that, like I probably should have, I don't want to say should have, that's not the right word. No, looking back at it now, I can see now that I had been in a deficit for a very long time. Even
Mhm.
with eating 2,400 calories a day, like that was a deficit because I was training 4 to 6
You're
hours a
so
day.
active. Yeah.
Like, and then I was a college student, so we were walking 20, 30,000 steps a day because you park
Mhm.
at the especially at USC. You know how it is. You
Yeah.
park near Arnold, but you have to walk to Capstone. Like
Yeah.
that's a mile hike.
Uh-huh.
And
Each way.
so, yeah, each way. And then we did, like, I got out of college. Had my first big girl job, which is when we started doing Daddy to the Shreddy. And so I went down to like 2,000 calories, but I was putting on weight every single day. And I was working with a
Mm.
nutrition coach while we did that too. Like,
Mhm.
I told her that I wanted to do the Daddy to the Shreddy thing, that I was going to do it with you and Grace, who was doing it as well. And then every single time calories went down, my weight went up. And I
Mm.
remember being so frustrated. And like, I still have like the pictures too. And I'm just like, the math ain't mathin'.
Yeah.
And I like, knowing what I know now, I'm like, that was a red flag. Like, that is
Yeah.
something that like women don't seem to like, or we're not taught about. Like, you can't know it if you don't know it. But if you're like consistently going down and down and down in calories, but you're going up in weight, something isn't right. Like
Right.
there's something that's not adding up. And so that kind of is a good segue to go into talking to you about you and your experience with a functional nutritionist, right? That's what it's called.
Mhm.
That's what
Yes.
she's called. Yeah. So tell us about that and the findings that you found and how you went from your skin, which I'm sure you'll talk about,
Yeah.
to where you are now. Like what was that
Yeah.
like?
So way before I even like reached out to get help about this, I've had terrible skin my whole life. It's just how it's been for me. I remember I visited my first ever dermatologist when I was 12 or 13 years old because I was just breaking out so bad and we thought it was just like puberty and like normal things. So when I was 13, I got put on my first antibiotic for my skin. Um, didn't work, didn't make a single difference. Went back to my dermatologist like 6 months later. They put me on a different antibiotic. And that was just on and off from the ages of like 13 to 17. I was just on every single acne medication. Most of them were antibiotics that you could think of that wasn't Accutane. I never went that far as to do Accutane because you had to be on birth control in order to take Accutane. And at the time, my very conservative mother was just like, "You're not going on birth control." So pretty much just on and off for like my entire middle school and high school years. Um, just like things never got better. So finally, when I was 20 years old, sophomore in college, I was like, why do I still have the skin of a 13-year-old? Like, I shouldn't be still having these hormone fluctuations. Like, something's very obviously not right. Willow, she's here.
She's made her presence known.
She's here. Um, but yeah, I was just sick of like having my skin be all messed up, even though I was a grown adult at that point. So finally, mother broke down. She was like, okay, go see a gynecologist. Like, we'll go get some hormone testing done. So we thought, Willow, you're fine. Um, get down. There we go. Um, and I went to a gynecologist that my dermatologist recommended me to go to. And I thought it would be like blood testing, hormone testing, that kind of thing to see like what I
Hmm.
needed. No, I walked into the gynecologist office. She was just like, okay, so I hear you want some birth control. Here's the one we prescribe for people who want to make their skin better. Gave me a
Okay.
prescription out the door. I was in there for less than 15 minutes. And in my brain, I go home and I'm like, finally, like something, this is going to work. Like, I have a feeling this is just going to work. And as I mentioned before, obviously did not work. I think I was on it for
Hmm.
a good like 8 months and like my skin never changed. I gained a bunch of weight. I was moody. The only good thing was that I had a regular period, which I know now still didn't count as a real period. Because that was the other thing is that my periods were always super, super inconsistent. Like
Yeah.
I would get them every single month in a row for like 3 months, and then it would go missing for like a year, and then it would come back like every other month, and then it was just always super, super inconsistent. So when I stopped taking my birth control, I was a junior in college at this point. my period never came back. Like,
Yeah,
did
I
not see
remember.
it. Yeah, and so, like, the entire time we were doing Daddy to the Shreddy, like, it wasn't because of that, like, I didn't have a period beforehand,
Hmm.
and I definitely still did not have a period once we were done.
Yeah.
So in my brain, I was like, "Well, what is left?" Like, what is there? Because I've tried birth control to make me more regular and get my hormones figured out, and that made things worse. So I remember, um at the gym that I coach at. Her name is Dr. Natalie Bays. She's one of our members. And I had just like struck up a conversation with her because I knew she was into functional medicine, is what she calls it, or what it is called, I should say. And she was just like, yeah, girl, that doesn't sound normal. Like you should come by and like we can chat about it and just see what's going on because I do blood tests and we'll like take some labs, send it in, obviously. And then, like, once we get your labs back, we can see if there's any imbalances anywhere instead of you just like assuming that it's this or this. So I was just
Hmm.
like, okay, like, she's not just giving me a prescription right off the bat. She's not just assuming this is what my problem is. Like, she actually wants to sit down and talk about it and like look over some lab work finally, as like you would think that all doctors would want to do.
Yeah.
But pretty much we got my labs back, and before she even sent labs out, sat down with me for an hour. We just talked about like my entire past health history of like all of the stuff that I had gone through, um, all of like the different phases of my health and my exercise and my nutrition. We talked about all of it for a full hour. Um, Ordered me some labs, came back once the results came in, and then again sat down for another hour and just went over what those results were so that like she just wasn't handing me a piece of paper that said like, oh, you're high here, you're low here, you're normal here, and like I wouldn't know what to do with that. Like,
Yeah.
it's like you can't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
So pretty much by going through my labs, I wrote down all of the notes of the things that she found because some of it's still a little bit over my head. But pretty much they found out that my thyroid wasn't functioning properly. I was developing thyroid autoimmunity. So I was at the beginning stages of that. She noted that I had really high testosterone, which was probably because or causing my missing periods and my acne.
Hmm.
Um, she noted that I had nutrient deficiencies too, in B12 and folate, which is surprising to me because at this time I was very health conscious, and I thought I was super healthy, but
Hmm.
also, um, I don't eat dairy or like I don't eat a ton of red meat either. So that's where you
Hmm.
find a lot of those nutrients. So I was just like, okay, um, avocados and chicken is like what I'm eating, which
Yeah.
is fine to an extent. But again, like you want a highly varied diet for all of those different micronutrients too. So those nutrient deficiencies were causing my LDL cholesterol to spike, which is
Yeah.
definitely not what you want. And then also my kidneys were under a lot of stress and not detoxing properly, which was obviously showing up in my skin. So that's why
Yeah.
that whole thing was happening. Um, she also noted that I had low neutrophils, which is a white blood cell that's meant to fight harmful bacteria. Super low there, which showed that I could potentially have chronic immune system issues. So
Hmm.
here I am thinking that I'm like the healthiest person ever and doing everything I need to do. And it's just like, actually, no, you got some
Yeah.
stuff going on too?
Yeah.
So instead of just like giving me that information and expecting me to like figure it out for myself or just like giving me a prescription drug and hoping that it fixed everything, she just prescribed me some supplements.
Yeah.
So the first one was just your everyday woman's multivitamin to
Hmm.
address those deficiencies, and help with the detoxification that I was struggling with. The second one was just magnesium that I take before bed, and that is for stress and anxiety. I'm a very high stress and high anxiety person, even though I try to say that I'm not. But especially just with like work and life, like I'm very high stress all the time, and I thought that I was like fine. It's not fine. It
Yeah.
impacts your health in more ways than you know. So yeah, the magnesium helps with stress and anxiety and helps you to sleep a lot better as well. And she also noted that I thought was really interesting that your magnesium is depleted when you use oral contraceptives.
Yes.
And so it had been like a year since I stopped taking it, and like it just like my magnesium levels never got back up.
It's
So
a hard nutrient to get from consumption, from like the
yeah,
American
exactly.
diet.
So that, um, yeah, she said your magnesium's depleted from oral contraceptives and high chronic stress. So that wasn't good. But then lastly was just to take a probiotic because of
Yeah.
like my entire history of antibiotic use and wiping out like every single type of good bacteria that I had. Just like, hey, take
Hmm.
this like common generic probiotic, just like get your gut health back to normal.
Yeah.
And those are the only three supplements that I take that I've ever taken before in my life. And since I started doing that, it's been a good like 8 months now. Since I started doing that, my skin has cleared up. I've gotten my period back regularly, might I add,
Yes.
like every single month. And like I can actually track it now and be like, oh, I'm supposed to be getting it this day. And then it actually shows up
Yes.
that day, you know? And so also like my weight has stayed steady. I've been at maintenance calories for a while, but like that has not seen any sort of fluctuations. Like I don't have mood swings anymore. Even in my like high stress state, like I'm still able to
Hmm.
like relax at night and sleep well.
Hmm.
And like this is the strongest and like the healthiest I've ever been, I feel. So yeah, all of that to say, go get second opinions. Try something that's not like super common, you know? Like your issues could be solved with something as simple as like, hey, you need to take more B12, you know,
Yeah.
instead of like
Yeah.
uprooting your entire like health and diet and stuff to go and
Yeah.
try some like drug, you know?
I think
So,
what people need to understand about the medical system and the way it's designed is that it's designed to treat symptoms, not causes.
mhm,
And so
right.
when you continue to treat symptoms instead of getting to the root of it, that cure for that symptom then causes another symptom, which causes another
Yeah.
symptom that you're continuously stacking pills on top of instead of
Mhm.
getting to the root of the issue. Whereas what you and what was her name again?
Natalie.
What you and Natalie did was you got down to the root of the issue. And so by
Mhm.
fixing the issue, you
Yes.
now don't have the symptoms. Crazy how
Right, which
that
is
works.
wild,
Two
right?
birds, one stone, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and
Instead of
so it's
eight
funny
stones,
too.
one bird.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny too that like I had gotten back in contact. She wanted to be like, okay, do this for 3 months. We'll get back together after that. And I remember going back to her after like 1 or 2 months, and I was just like, oh my gosh, Natalie, you cured me. Like, I can't believe like
Yeah.
this was this simple this whole time. And she's like, okay, well, thank you. But also, like, you were a special case that like this did happen.
Yeah,
So obviously, there are more complicated cases. Like, she
for
works with
sure.
people with like cancer, diabetes. She has a few clients with lupus too, I believe. So obviously things aren't going to be as simple as me without any chronic conditions, even though like
Hmm.
apparently I was on my way to that. But you
Yeah.
know, either way, like there are people that have much more serious health issues than I had, and like she's still able to treat them through nutrition, you know, which
Yeah.
is absolutely wild to me and
Yeah.
amazing.
It's so funny. And I had this conversation with someone on Instagram this past week who was telling me about her polycystic ovarian syndrome.
Mhm.
Um, and she was like going to the doctor, getting blood work, getting hormone panels done, and they still couldn't like tell her a lot of information. And the the cure was to put her on birth control, but it
Mhm.
wasn't really helping with much of her symptoms or anything. I'm like, another thing that a lot of people don't realize about a lot of these different conditions, these chronic illnesses, is that they are a lot of the time, and there are some very like extenuating circumstances. Obviously, like no thing is the same, but a lot of them are lifestyle driven. It's years
Mhm.
and years of neglecting your stress, neglecting the quality of your diet. Like, are you
Mhm.
eating McDonald's every single day? Like, I wish I could. I feel
Yeah.
like if I did that, my health would decline as well. And
Mhm.
nothing against McDonald's. Like, I get a McFlurry every once in a while. Don't play
Yeah.
with my M&M McFlurry when the
Right.
ice cream machine works, when the ice cream machine works.
Right, right.
Um, Sometimes you go to get one and it's heartbreaking.
I was about to say that helps with you not having one every single day.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. The ice cream machine is broken 90%
Yeah,
of the time.
right.
Um, but a lot of these things are lifestyle driven, which is why,
Mhm.
yes, we do macro coaching, but it goes so much deeper than that. Like, if you want an aesthetic transformation, or if you want like to get stronger, if you want to be a better performance athlete, whatever it is, like a lot of these things come down to your lifestyle. And so
Mhm.
it's about like
For
your
sure.
nutrition and your lifestyle matching your goals. And if your goals are to not be sick all the time, or to not have chronic conditions popping up all the time, like my grandmother is a great example. Lord bless her soul. She
Mhm.
ate scalloped potatoes and salmon patties and fried chicken just about every other day. And then
Uh-huh.
she had every chronic condition under the sun, like had to have a
Right.
quadruple bypass at 50 years old.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. And then once that happened, she got her chest plate returned back to normal. Well, then she developed diabetes after that. And then she got an infection in her chest plate. So
Oh
she had
my
to get her
gosh.
breastbone removed. And it's just like, we bring a lot of the things that happen to us on ourselves. And there's,
Mhm.
again, if you don't know, you don't know. It's not saying that
Right.
you're at fault. But what I am saying is that you can take control of these things.
Right.
Like, you stopped taking the birth control. I got my IUD out in
Mhm.
November. No,
Mhm.
October, because I was noticing a lot of the same things. I could be eating 2,400 calories, or I could eat 1,800 calories and my weight would not change. It would
Mhm.
not change. Um, and now I'm going and getting a hormone panel done, and I am terrified.
Yes.
Like, I'm legitimately
Well,
terrified.
it is, but it's also kind of freeing to know that, like, you can finally have answers, and that
Exactly.
there are like, if anything, I was more shocked to just see, like, how many things were wrong when I thought that everything was fine, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So, finding a
Absolutely.
way of, like, I'm eating healthy foods, I'm exercising all of the time, but it's also like, "Oh, if we didn't address those things, like, I would have had chronic health issues," you know? So,
Yeah.
at least you get a little bit of peace of mind of like, "Oh, this is why this is happening, and there is a solution for it."
Absolutely. I'm nervous for sure. Just because like
Yeah.
I've again, like I was eating 2,400 calories at my height in CrossFit, but I was also training
Mhm.
upwards 6 hours a day. Like, I was
Right.
at the gym always. And
Mhm.
since doing that for like a full year and a half, maybe even two really, and all the injuries I had, like
Mhm.
the resistance to weight loss that I have, and it's never that I'm trying to lose weight. I don't care about losing weight. Um, but it's just, and I'm not by any means trying to lose fat either, but it's strange to me
Mhm.
that no matter what I eat right now, I stay the same, whether it's
Right, right,
2,400 calories, whether it's 2,000. And so
right.
again, it's like one of those red flags that I should have noticed when we were doing Daddy to the Shreddy,
Yeah.
that now I'm like, okay, Haley, you're an adult. You have the education and the background and the knowledge to understand like what this means when you get the
Mhm.
results back, which I think is a
Right.
lot of like the reason that I waited so long in the first place to doing something like this, is just because for the longest time I didn't have the knowledge. I'm like, what if,
Yeah.
or like, I don't want to say that I distrust doctors. That's not what I'm saying. But I
I
do,
question things a lot more now.
as people should, you should
Yeah.
question the information that you get from even health professionals. Like my doctor, my entire childhood and even at my peak in CrossFit, told me I was obese according to BMI. Like, I
Oh
have
my
been
gosh.
obese according to BMI my entire life. And they're
Mhm.
like, oh, you better watch that. And I'm like, I am 9% body fat right now. What do you mean
Right.
I better watch that? Are you
Yeah.
serious? Um, so people should ask questions, but I know
Mhm.
that I waited so long to like invest in my health and even like invest in like deeper health from like a hormone perspective because
Mhm.
I'm like, I don't have the knowledge to know if someone, what they're telling me is true or correct. And I don't have
Mhm.
like that person who I like trust to read this and really tell me what's going on.
Right.
But now that I have that knowledge, I'm like, okay, I'm going to get
Yeah.
this hormone panel. I will read it myself. I will figure out what it means, or I will send it to your gal and be like, please read
Right.
this for me. I'll
No,
pay you
she's
to read
working
it.
remote now.
That's
Everybody,
amazing.
Dr. Natalie Bays, she works remote. So like, yeah,
Yeah.
that was the single most influential like meeting that I've ever had, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have been referring her to absolutely everybody under the sun. Like I have we spoke about this briefly like a week ago too of I've learned my limits as a nutrition coach of I can help with like lifestyle changes and healthy habits and for the general population, like if you want to lose weight or get lean or gain muscle, like yes, I can help with that. For people like what we were going through or other people with chronic health issues, I've learned now how to identify that and be like, okay, I'm actually going to send you to somebody who's way smarter than I am. So, and that's
Yeah.
fine. Like, I've referred her to like four of my past clients that I worked with for a few months. And I was just like, you know what? I've done what I can do, but also, like, I want to help you reach your goals. And the way that I'm going to help you do that is by sending you to somebody that's smarter than me, you know?
Yeah.
So,
And I think even if you don't have chronic conditions, women should be getting this done regularly
mm-hmm,
anyway. Like
yeah.
the female hormone system, it's not fragile. That is not what I am saying at all. But it is so susceptible to our diet and our lifestyle. And it does
Yeah.
have such like a large effect on the most minute things, like
Mm-hmm,
you with your magnesium deficiency. Like thyroid dysfunction is incredibly common and there's a
mm-hmm,
lot of people who have it who don't know that they have it. And so like these things, especially if you like working out, especially if you like fitness, especially if you've ever dieted. I mean ever. Like you need to
mm-hmm,
be getting these things done regularly so that you know what is
mm-hmm,
going on inside of your body. It doesn't have to be a thing like you like your skin won't like heal and then me like
mm-hmm,
my fat or content or my body weight constantly is the same no matter how much I'm eating. Like it
mm-hmm,
doesn't need to be that deep. Like you need to go get one anyway.
mm-hmm. Exactly. I completely agree.
Like, it's like when you take your car to the mechanic, you gotta know what's under the hood.
Mm-hmm.
You get an oil change every what is
Yeah.
it, 3,000 miles, 5,000, ten
Yeah. Three
thousand,
to five. Three to
3 to
five.
5? Yeah, you get an oil change regularly. Why are you not, like, looking under the hood of your own health regularly? Like,
Yeah.
you
Yeah. Completely agree. Even if you
alrighty,
think that
AB.
nothing's weird's going on, just like out of curiosity.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, like, the more you know about your body, the more and this is the thing from, like, a coaching perspective as well, red flag which is a conversation for another day. Red flag
Mm-hmm.
of a nutrition
Add that
coach
to
is
the
if
list.
they just tell you what to do and they don't try to educate you along the
Right.
way.
Right.
Because when it comes to your journey, your nutrition, your health, your fitness, that educational aspect is what empowers you to do it long term once you're done with your nutrition coach. If they are
Mm-hmm.
simply just telling you what to do and they're like, you ask a question and they're like, I don't know, like it's just what we need to be doing. Um,
Mm-hmm.
they're not empowering you to make
Right.
educated decisions for
Right.
yourself. And so
And it's
that's what
like,
this
why am
really
I
comes
doing this?
down
And
to.
they're like, because I said so. And it's like, well, that doesn't
Exactly.
impact me at
Red
all.
flag, ladies, run away if
Yes.
anyone ever says that. Even a doctor, like if you're asking like why are you putting me on this birth control versus this birth control? I wish I would have asked that question when I got my
Yeah.
IUD. I
Yeah.
wish so much because when I got it removed, the doctor was like, are you sure you want to take this out? I'm like, yes, I just asked you to take it out, pull it out, like get it out of me.
Ah,
Um, but she was like, okay, well, there's a smaller version that has less hormones in it. And I was like, well, nobody told me that. Like, why am I? Because I like the reason I got it taken out was one, I wanted to learn more about my hormones and my cycle and whatnot. But two, I could feel it. I could feel it every time I snatched, every time I did something weird. Like, I could feel it. And
No.
like people were like, no, Haley, like you're not feeling it. Like you cannot feel it. I'm like, my uterus, I do not get contractions. I do not have cramps. Even now that I have like a normal cycle, I don't get cramps really. Like it's never been something that I've had. But I would
Mhm.
snatch and then cramp for days and like feel my uterus. And I'm like, that's not normal. That ain't normal.
No,
But
no,
no,
absolutely not.
but a doctor didn't look at me and tell me that when
Right.
I went and got my IUD. They didn't say, hey, you're a small person. You have a small uterus. Maybe this option would be better. They just handed me two pamphlets and I was like, this one's prettier. Let's go with that. Like,
Oh.
because I mean, like, I didn't understand the medical jargon. I was young.
Right.
I'm like, what? I was 19 getting this on my own, my very first like doctor's appointment on my own. I had no
Mhm.
idea what questions to ask, no idea what to
Yeah.
do or say. And so I was like, I don't know, this one looks good. What do you think? And they're like, sure, let's go.
Right, right. And they're just like, I have 30 minutes to get this done.
Yeah.
Speed it up.
If
Yeah.
it was literally strip, open up, put it in, let's go. It was
Oh,
so
no thanks.
fast. Like 5
No
minutes,
thanks.
maybe. I was
Yeah.
in that room maybe 5 minutes. And most of that was me taking off my clothes.
Oh,
All right.
okay.
Okay. Any
Yes.
passing last thoughts or comments before we head off?
I think just listen to your body, take note of
Listen.
the signs. You know if things aren't quite right, and trust yourself when you think those things. And then always seek help from people that are smarter than you.
Oh my God. Always. Always.
Yes.
It would have saved me a lot of problems my whole life.
Mhm. Mhm.
But asking questions to those people.
Yes. Yes, for
Yeah.
sure. For sure.
Amazing. Awesome. Well, it was super amazing chatting. If anyone wants to work with Coach AB, she is taking
Woohoo!
clients. I will link her application link in the show notes. And if you have any
Yeah.
questions that you want to ask her, her Instagram is at Annabelle Holtcamp, right?
Yes, just my name
Amazing.
for
Just
now.
her
I haven't
name.
decided to rebrand yet.
Well, I'll just put the link below and then whatever
Yes.
it is, it'll be down there. But that is how you can get in contact
Mhm.
with her, or you can DM me through @strong.as.hale on Instagram to also get her application link. So it was
Woohoo!
super awesome chatting with you. And we will
Yes.
be back next week for another
Yes.
podcast.
Yay!